Thank you, Dr. Tan. It was really an enriching experience to listen to all of you. And I should say that on behalf of the university, we have not paid enough attention to this area. We have one professor who is working in this area. I requested him to come. Unfortunately, he is not here. he had a prior appointment, so he could not come. And we will be able to help and support him. As I mentioned, we had done very little work in this area. I have done little bit of work, but not as a university, not even while in NICA, but outside. So let me try to say a little provocatively. Take a contrarian view to start with by saying that one of the difficulties that we face when we link not higher education with society or education with the local areas is that we are totally divorced. Either you have education or you remain in the local areas. Whenever we try to link these two things together, we have messed up things. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Somebody talked about Gandhiji's idea of Antyodaya. Gandhiji has one of the persons who felt that education should be rooted in the villages. Since village life is the nerve center of India and development process. What he suggested was that we have junior basic education, where education and productive work are linked. And it had what we can call as death by slow starvation. By the time it is, we reached 1950s and 60s. Because students were not coming, teachers were not trained, and there is a notion that you are sending the child to the school not to soil his or her hands with the practical work. You are going to develop intellectually. Students are sent to the school intellectually, so this will not work out. We have the experience internationally, what is called as education with work. And if you see the history of Eastern Europe, at that time led by Soviet Union, that's the only place where you find that this was a successful experiment. In all other cases, it was a failure. The question was that whether education should be put with work, or education should move parallelly with work, or education and work should be linked. These are the three alternatives that were that was posed in the context, So, systematically, there is a link between modern education and linking it with the local areas. Let me tell you one of the reasons. The norm that we follow in India, perhaps in other places, anything that is rural is bad, anything that is urban is better, and anything which is from abroad is excellent. This is an unwritten curriculum that we propose. There is an unwritten curriculum that we try to propagate through our curriculum process, through our educational process. Therefore, anybody who is educated is divorced from the locality, the social life, the social construct that we talk about it, and this is the reality. Let us not be keeping our eyes closed to that. I'll come to some other positive dimensions later, but let me start with this, So this is the way that we try to see that. As I mentioned, JD schools are a natural death without anybody taking any forceful operation on that. But one of the reasons when we try to link higher education with societal development or more with the local development is that when higher education started, nobody considered it seriously. These are intellectuals individually, parallelly sitting there something and discussing about it, producing intellectual knowledge which does not have any contribution to economic development and economic growth and social development. These are isolated instances, and nobody expected that higher education will be becoming such an important dimension in the economic and social development process as it is today. That was the first stage. The second stage, what we find is that developing countries got independence after the national liberation movement, and the post-independent development of higher education in many of the developing countries, especially in Africa and in Asia. What one finds is that the notion of development that was centered around industrialization. And higher education should feed to industrialization. And higher education had two functions at that point of time when we talk about that. One is that it should produce people who can man and manage the economy and the nation in terms of administrative structures. You find that the best histories from Africa. We have our friend from Uganda. Africanization was one of the major concerns of higher education development in Africa, if you see in the 1950s and 60s, because most of the top positions in Africa were occupied by the persons for imperial powers, so people from the imperial colonies, and therefore they wanted to replace it. This was the notion. India did not face this problem to that extent because many of the things were managed by Indians. But here we had a notion that industrialization is the most important thing. So what did we do? How do higher education institutions support industrialization? Although we are a poor country, we are an agrarian country, more than 80% of the population was dependent on agriculture, and employment generation was much more in agriculture, but higher education was oriented more towards industrialization. What did we try to say? That we should have technological dependence. So what did we do? We had IITs, Indian Institutes of Management. We had what is at that time called was that these technological institutions, regional engineering RIs. So now it is called NITs. So we had regional engineering colleges. We have management institutions. IIMs opened. All this happened in the 1950s and 60s. But all these were not related to the local areas. All these were not related to the local development. All these were not related to the agricultural development. All these were more related to the industrial consumption of the country, which did not succeed. Industrialization did not succeed, but this institutionalization of industrialization through education process succeeded in India, through massification, what is happening now, So that is the history that you find if you look at the education and local development. If you take, somebody mentioned, sir, you mentioned about the extension. Agricultural universities are perhaps one of the few exceptions to this trend where they try to link the university setup, knowledge production with the local areas. Similarly, in social sciences, if you look at it, you find that MSW is one area where you have more close association with the local areas. The students go to the rural areas, they work with the people and come back. And also even in research, this is what is more being promoted. Let me come to the third stage in the development of higher education and its linkages to economics. This is the time where people recognize that knowledge is an important thing, and knowledge is important in development, and therefore investing in knowledge is rewarding. The last sentence is more important. Yes, so investing in knowledge is rewarding. Investing in knowledge production is rewarding, because this is the time that you find that most of the corporate sector wanted to enter into education. So there is a corporatization of education development, there is a marketization of education development, there is a systematic move away from the state, and there is a systematic move away from the social responsibilities which seemingly existed in the public institutions. This has a lot of implications for social development, it has a lot of implications for political development that is taking place. This is, so when we started talking about globalization of higher education, globalization in the economic sense, globalization in the political sense, and globalization in the educational sense. These were also systematically moving education away from the local areas, and these were also efforts to see that it is to be led by the market. Market understands only two things. One is the prices, other is the profit. And in the international trade, you understand only in terms of the cross-border profits that it can bring. So education is centered around these notions, and which is not linked to the rural areas. Then what we find is that the markets are not existing in the urban areas. If you want to have further extension of the market, it should be in the rural areas. So rural development became a concern even for the corporate sectors. As if you talk about soap, who consumes more soap? And if you look into the soap production in this country, you find that each village had, or most villages had, small shops which will be producing, not selling, producing soaps, local. And what you find is that industrialization tried to kill all this employment and the production of soap and many of the local productions. So there again what you find is that the market tended to sell the goods, not to produce. Previously, the existence of these villages were producing and selling and surviving, and so it was their survival right. So this underwent dramatic change if you look at it, the rural development, the policies and many other things. As I mentioned again, the agrarian sector and agricultural universities are an exception to this trend. But this knowledge production and knowledge utilization, when it became, knowledge became one of the important elements. Although market entered, what happened is that there were constraints for expansion of the market unless we move to the rural areas, unless we move to the local areas. That's the stage where we find. Another important dimension in this process is that in the context of marketization process, in the context of globalization process, the countries moved to political right. I'm not saying that right politics, I'm talking about political right, so don't misunderstand. So moved to the political right. What is the difference between a political right and a political center or a liberal politics? The political right was always against investing public resources for the benefit of the poor or subsidizing education for the benefit of the poor. This move, and now what you find is that if you take last 1 decade, this is complete, and there is a conflict that is coming. The conflict is that if you take from the 1990s, you find that larger number of countries became democratic countries. Elections are established, elections are taking place, new rulers are coming, new parties are coming to power. But one thing that is constant is that inequalities are widening. So there is a strange combination of marriage between markets and the political process that disturbs what we call as the social responsibilities for education and the social responsibilities of higher education. That is taking place. So what we are talking about is that one of the difficulties that we face is that how do we remain globally competitive and locally engaged? This is not my usage, I am stealing it from OECD, one of the major projects of OECD. Globally, you may be knowing many publications. How do we remain? I like that title. The project discussions can be something different, but I like the title. How do we remain globally competitive and locally engaged? That's the issue. This has 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions. The notion of knowledge production needs to be changed from knowledge production in the laboratories and in the libraries to knowledge production through trying to theorize on the practices that are taking place in the local areas and in the rural areas, and we link with this. This is one thing that is very important for that. I had an interesting experience. We went to University Science, Malaysia, which is the only apex university among the public institutions in Malaysia, one of the top private universities in Malaysia. So we had a lot of discussions with the students. This was part of an international expert visit to see that how universities contribute to regional development. So we went there, we had several discussions with the students, with the teachers, and also with the vice chancellor at that time. So we had all these discussions, but one thing that came out very clearly is that the professors, very interesting thing, there is a professor's post in rural development there at that point of time. That position remained vacant for 15 years. Until we wrote the report, that position was not filled in. You have positions filled in nanotechnology, you have positions filled in all other areas, but in rural development, that position remained unfilled. So when we talked about it, what are the aspirations of professors? I'm saying that if you want to really lead, this is something that we have to change. What are the aspirations of the professors? Aspirations of the professors is more than a promotion, they should be intellectually recognized. And intellectual recognition means you should get a publication there, recognized international journal. Professors feel that if they try to link and go deeper into the rural development and engage with the rural people, they will be failing in their mission to be intellectually recognized to get an international publication. So we realized that there is a conflict of interest between the professors who should be engaging students in promoting and encouraging rural research. Then we talked about the students. What are their perceptions? I'll not take much time, I'll take only 5 more minutes. So when we talk to the students, and what we find is that the students felt that by doing research or activities related to the local areas or rural areas, their chances of mobility are getting constrained. What I mean to say is that, so there is a constraint that you find from the part of the students. By taking 2 things. I am ready to compromise on the case of students because who come for 3 years or 4 years. But unless you change the attitude of professors, I don't consider that we will be able to actively engage with the rural areas and with the local areas in a sustained manner. Let me also say that this is where the local based research and methodology, somebody mentioned about it, becomes very important. What is the issue? Many of the professors feel that the methodology relied on for research is very light, if I can use that term, in rural development and in terms of the local engagement. It is very light. Unless we apply rigorous methodology, firstly there is a problem. Many of them engage in qualitative research. And unfortunately the qualitative research methodology used is not actually qualitative methodology. It's a combination of something which I do not know how to call it. We had detailed discussions about these type of things. So it certainly is not a qualitative methodology in the sense in which at least my limited understanding permits me to understand, read and understand. Certainly it is not quantitative methodology. So but my point is that unless we change the rigor, unless we intervene at the rigor of the research methodology to produce standard, very good articles which can be published in very good journals and keep the engagement with the local areas, we will not be in a position to move this as a sustainable one. There will be individual efforts, I am not saying that. So there will be individual efforts, there will be an organizational arrangement. But how do these arrangements, how do the ideas take deep roots and translate themselves into active agents of change at the local area? So I feel that for that we need to come back again to the universities and to the teachers, and where we try to see that there is no conflict of interest in the positive sense, and there is something that we try to maximize, and this maximization has a collective effort, and this collective effort is based and deeply rooted in the rigorous research methodology and the empirical analysis and the analytical capacities that we try to produce. So therefore, it is important to see that it is not only the social responsibility of universities that needs to be focused, but also the social accountability for the faculty and social accountability of institutions, not only social responsibilities, but also social accountabilities, and how to make these institutions accountable to what we want to do is the way that I suggested as 1, 2 or 3 areas. That is what I want to say. I don't want to put any wrong message. I don't want to put across any wrong message. But what I felt that this is what I feel about it with my limited experience in dealing with higher education and social responsibilities and social research. Thank you.